There are only 4 more weeks in the NFL regular season, and we're starting to get some clarity with the playoffs. 6 AFC teams have already been eliminated, just 1 over the NFC. So there are still bids up for grabs, and we're going to tackle some of them here in just a bit. Bengals and Cowboys have a combined 3% chance to make the playoffs. Special teams late cost Dallas a chance to win it, and you never want to give Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase an extra opportunity. And they also forced Micah Parsons to get all riled up in the 27-20 win on the road. All right, let's bring in John Breech to talk about a handful of teams that are going to either make or miss the playoffs. And to be fair, the statistics are not going to be flattering for all these teams. So it's really if Breech thinks that one of them will buck the trend and buck the odds to make it. Let's start with Cincy, keeping their playoff hopes alive last night in Arlington. On 2% chance for the Bengals. What say you?
Tommy, I say 2% is better than 0%. They're not eliminated. They could still get in, but you know what? Look, I'm going to be a realist here. I had the Bengals going far in the preseason, but I think their ride is over. I don't think they're going to be making it to the postseason. I just think they dug themselves too deep of a hole. That's really what it comes down to. And the thing that hurts them the most is you look at that conference record right now, it is 2-6. So even if the Bengals manage to win out, which I actually think is completely possible, you look at their schedule, the Titans, the Browns, they get the Broncos at home, and then the Steelers, a big game in week 18. So they could win out, they get to 9-8, but then that 2-6 conference record is what crushes them. That's a tiebreaker that you really need to have when you look at a head-to-head tiebreaker with maybe the Dolphins or the Colts or the Broncos. So I think the Bengals will not be playing after week 18, Tommy.
You know, Bengals fans have unfortunately have to go through these slow starts year after year recently. Some years it worked out, and unfortunately maybe not this time around. Let's get to the Dolphins, who sit at 11%. It was a lot lower going into their game with the Jets here. The schedule's still there for them. Breech, what are we thinking about Miami at 11%?
Man, Tommy, the Dolphins are an intriguing team because they are talking and playing like their season's on the line every week, which it pretty much is. I mean, Tyreek Hill has already said, look, we have to win out. There's no margin for error. And so that's really what they have to do. If they can win their final 4 games, that gets them to 10-7. And I think that would give them a very realistic shot to get in. The problem is I'm not so sure they can win these final 4 games. Tommy, as you know, the Dolphins have not won a game in under 40-degree weather in a long time. They have lost 12 straight games in those temperatures. And I don't know if you've seen the end of that schedule, but the last 2 games at Cleveland, at New York. I don't know if you've been to Northern Ohio in late December, early January, but it is always below 40 degrees. It will probably be below 10 degrees. So I have a hard time seeing the Dolphins sweep those 2 games. I think they could go 3-1 down the stretch. I do not think 9-8 will get them in. So I'm going to leave the Miami Dolphins out.
Yeah, no thanks. I haven't been to Ohio. I've been to Ohio in the summer, not in the winter, and I already saw that Thursday night game against the Steelers, so no thank you for that, and probably for Miami as well. Let's get to a game Thursday night in the NFC West. It'll be crucial for both teams. Let's start with the LA Rams coming off that shootout win over the Bills. We're talking about a 27% chance for them to make the postseason. Breech, make or miss?
Look, I actually like the Los Angeles Rams. They were my preseason pick to win the NFC West, and I'm going to stick with them, and not just because they were my preseason pick. You look at Matthew Stafford. He gets hot every single December. Since he was traded to the Rams in 2021, he has gone 10-1 in December games. So he rarely loses. We saw that on display last week against the Buffalo Bills when he just had a monstrous game. And so you look at the rest of the Rams schedule. You go into San Francisco, if you can beat a kind of an injury-depleted 49ers team, then you have the Jets. That's a very winnable game. And I think the NFC West is going to come down to week 18 when the Rams get to play the Seahawks in Los Angeles. That is a Seattle team the Rams have already beaten this year. I think they beat them again in week 18 and steal the NFC West.
All right, so the way you're talking doesn't seem like you believe in San Francisco's 4% chance to make it. It's incredible because in the offseason, they were the Super Bowl betting favorite, and now they're really on life support.
Yeah, you look at the 49ers schedule. Look, they've had some horrible injury luck. I think we can all agree on that. And just the wheels have kind of fallen off the wagon this year. Yes, they did give the Bears a big beatdown on Sunday, and that, I'm sure, raised the team's morale. But when you look at this schedule right here, even if they beat the Rams, they're going to be facing a Dolphins team that's equally desperate in Week 16. Then you have to play the Detroit Lions, who are going to be looking to sew up the #1 seed and the NFC North there in Week 17. So that schedule is just too brutal. I think the 49ers could maybe go 2-2 there, but 8-9 is not going to get you in the playoffs in the NFC. So I have the 49ers out.
So the 4 teams we've been talking about, you've kind of described them as teams digging themselves a hole, tough to get out. This last team we're going to talk about, the Atlanta Falcons, is kind of the reverse. 2-3 weeks ago, their percentage of making the postseason probably would have been double what they are right now. It's like 31%. They've been sliding. What do you think about the Atlanta Falcons? Breach, make or miss?
Yeah, the Falcons did the opposite, Tommy. They took the elevator up to the penthouse, and Kirk Cousins cut the cord, and now they're just tanking down. And we don't know where this is going to end, where this elevator is going to drop to. It's been an ugly stretch here for Kirk Cousins. But the thing is, if he can turn things around, they have a lot of winnable games. I mean, we're talking about the Raiders in Week 15, the Giants in Week 16. They close the season against the Arizona Cardinals. So I think the Falcons do have a very good chance. And the game I have circled on their schedule is Week 17 against the Washington Commanders, because I don't think the Falcons are going to win the NFC South. I just think they're sliding too far. The Buccaneers have that 1-game lead. I don't think they're going to relinquish. But if Atlanta can beat Washington in Week 17, that opens the door for them to kind of steal that wild card berth, maybe, if they can get to 10-7 with a head-to-head win over Washington. So for now, I am not going to pick the Falcons to make the playoffs because Kirk Cousins has been playing so badly over the past month. But if he can flip things around, there's no reason this team can't make the playoffs.
Okay, that was a fun game, a make or miss. And just for record, I think the only one were the LA Rams, a make for John Breech out of the 5 we talked today. Thanks, John. A reminder about CBS Sports HQ, folks. News, highlights, and scores. It's all here. And the best part is, it's all free.